Hey plant lovers, welcome back. Here's a number that should make you angry. The exact same plant, same species, same size, same genetics, can sit on two different shelves in the same city and carry two completely different price tags. $25 at the Home Depot on one side of Dallas, $80 at a boutique plant studio on the other side of Dallas. Same plant, same soil. The only thing that changed was the lighting in the room and the font on the price sticker. That gap is where this whole video lives, because the truth that the high-end design world would rather you not think too hard about is this. The plants that make a room look expensive and the plants that actually cost a lot of money are mostly not the same plants. Interior designers staging luxury condos in Miami, boutique hotel lobbies in Charleston, model homes in Scottsdale. They are not filling those spaces with rare $200 collector specimens. They're using common, widely available houseplants that cost between $10 and $35. And then they're styling them in a way that reads as money. I researched 7 of those plants. For each one, I want to show you what it actually costs, where to actually buy it, and the specific styling move that turns a cheap nursery plant into something that looks like it belongs behind a velvet rope. Some of these are completely safe around cats and dogs. Some are genuinely toxic, and I'll be blunt with you about which ones, because that matters more than how good your corner looks. Let's start with the one that fools the most people. The first plant is the Philodendron Birkin, and it pulls off a specific kind of trick. The Birkin has deep, glossy green leaves, laced with thin white pinstripes. Variegation so crisp and so regular that it genuinely looks hand-painted. And here's the part that messes with people's heads. White variegation is usually the marker of an expensive plant. Variegated monsteras run into the hundreds of dollars, precisely because that white patterning is unstable and rare. So your eye sees white stripes and quietly files the plant under costs a fortune. The Birkin breaks that rule. It's a stable, lab-propagated variety that's now stocked at big box garden centers across the country for roughly $25 to $35. The variegation shows up reliably on nearly every single leaf, not just a lucky few. So you get the visual signature of a rare plant at the price of a common one. And the origin story is genuinely worth knowing, because it explains the price. The Birkin didn't exist in the wild. It appeared as a spontaneous mutation on a different philodendron, a Rojo Congo, in a cultivation setting. A single plant threw out a leaf with those white pinstripes, a genetic accident in the layer of cells that controls pigment. That kind of accident is called a chimera, and chimeral variegation is normally a nightmare to keep, because the plant tends to revert back to plain green or throw off all white leaves that can't feed themselves. What made the Birkin valuable is that growers found they could stabilize it through tissue culture, cloning thousands of identical copies in a lab from a few cells. Do you see what that means? The very thing that should have made it rare and unstable got mass-produced into a reliable, affordable houseplant. You're holding the resolved version of a problem that, in an unstabilized plant, would cost a fortune. But the styling is what closes the deal. Put a Birkin in a matte white ceramic pot or a textured concrete planter with clean, simple lines. Something that gets out of the way and lets those stripes be the entire show. Then raise it to eye level. A side table, a console, a plant stand. The white pinstripes catch light and read as detail, and detail is what the brain associates with craftsmanship and cost. Designers in places like Atlanta will flank a sofa with 2 matching Birkins for that mirror image, professionally staged look. One non-negotiable: keep the leaves spotless. Wipe them down weekly with a damp cloth. White variegation shows every speck of dust and every water spot, and a dusty Birkin instantly reads as neglected and cheap, no matter how beautiful the plant underneath is. The pristine surface is doing half the work. Care is forgiving. Bright indirect light is ideal, though it tolerates medium light. Water when the top 2 inches of soil go dry, usually about weekly. Here's the one warning that matters more than the aesthetics. The Birkin is a philodendron, and like all true philodendrons, it contains calcium oxalate crystals that are toxic to cats and dogs. If a pet chews it, expect mouth irritation, drooling, and vomiting. Keep it up high and out of reach, or skip it entirely if you've got a determined chewer at home. And while we're at the very top of this list, if you find these kinds of plant breakdowns useful, go ahead and hit subscribe right now. The whole point of this channel is the part most plant videos skip, the reasoning underneath the advice. And subscribing is genuinely what tells the platform to keep this style of content coming. The second plant trades stripes for structure. The Dracaena marginata, the Madagascar dragon tree, is all about line. Thin, woody, often gently curving trunks topped with bursts of narrow, spiky leaves edged in deep red. It doesn't look like a houseplant so much as a piece of modern sculpture, and that's exactly the effect designers are after. A specimen with 2 or 3 trunks at staggered heights costs about $20 to $30, and it can hold its own in a minimalist room worth far more. The reason it works is architectural. Most plants give you mass and softness. The marginata gives you negative space and vertical line, which is the visual language of expensive modern interiors. And that shape isn't decorative accident, it's where the plant comes from. The Madagascar dragon tree is native to Madagascar and nearby Mauritius, where it grows as a slow, slender tree, reaching for light in dry, rocky scrubland. The thin trunk and the tuft of leaves clustered only at the very top are a survival strategy. Put almost nothing into the trunk, hold the foliage high and minimal, and ride out long stretches with little water. That stripped-down, sculptural silhouette you're paying a designer plant premium for is really just a drought country plant doing the least it can to stay alive. Think about that. The look reads as deliberate minimalism, but it's actually frugality. To lean into that, choose a multi-trunk specimen over a single stem. The varied heights read as intentional and designed. Then plant it in a tall cylindrical pot, at least 12 to 14 inches high, in a matte neutral like charcoal or off-white. The tall column of pot plus the vertical spray of foliage becomes one continuous gesture. Tuck it into a corner or against a bare wall, where its height fills the space without eating up floor. The marginata also grows slowly and holds its form for years without going wild or leggy, which means it keeps that pristine sculptural shape with almost no pruning. And low-maintenance permanence is its own kind of luxury. Now, the part nobody mentions when they sell you this plant. Dracaenas are extremely sensitive to fluoride, the stuff your city adds to tap water to protect people's teeth. Michigan State University Extension flagged this directly. Dracaenas and other monocots irrigated with fluoridated municipal water develop fluoride toxicity, and the symptom is brown, dead tissue at the leaf tips and margins. Iowa State University Extension backs this up, listing Dracaena among the species most prone to it. And here's the cruel part. Once a tip browns, that damage is permanent. The leaf will not heal. So a marginata watered carelessly with straight tap water slowly accumulates brown tips and starts looking exactly like the cheap, neglected plant you were trying to avoid. The fix is simple and cheap. Water it with distilled, filtered, or collected rainwater. Letting tap water sit out overnight handles chlorine, but does nothing for fluoride, so that old trick won't save you here. Trim any existing brown tips at an angle that mimics the natural leaf point. The marginata is also toxic to cats and dogs, so it belongs out of a pet's reach. The third plant is the one your great-grandmother probably had. The parlor palm has been a fixture of elegant interiors since the Victorian era. It literally got its name because it was the palm that thrived in the dim, gaslit parlors of the 1870s. 150 years later, designers still reach for those soft, feathery, arching fronds because they whisper resort lobby and boutique hotel without trying. A small parlor palm runs $15 to $25, and you can often find them even cheaper, around $10 to $15, in grocery store floral sections. The styling move here is fullness through grouping. A single thin palm looks sparse, but buy 2 or 3 small ones and cluster them in matching pots at staggered heights, or pot them together in one generous container, and suddenly you've got a lush, layered, tropical installation. That arrangement might cost you $40 to $60 total, and reads like a far pricier statement piece. White ceramic or a natural woven basket suits its soft texture better than anything sleek. And here's the line that genuinely matters for a lot of you. The parlor palm, scientific name Chamaedorea elegans, is confirmed non-toxic to both cats and dogs by the ASPCA. This is a big deal because the palm category is a minefield. The sago palm, sold right alongside it at many retailers, isn't a true palm at all. It's a cycad, and it's severely toxic, capable of causing liver failure in pets. So check the Latin name on the tag. Chamaedorea elegans is the safe one. Get that right, and you have genuine tropical elegance you can put on the floor without a second thought. Keep the top inch of soil lightly moist. Give it low to medium indirect light. It genuinely tolerates dim corners. And snip any yellowing fronds at the base to keep it looking fresh. And that low light tolerance, the trait that makes it so useful in a dim apartment, isn't a compromise the plant is enduring. It's native to the rainforest floors of southern Mexico and Guatemala, growing in the deep shade beneath a dense canopy where only a fraction of the sunlight ever reaches the ground. A plant that evolved in permanent shade doesn't merely survive low light, it's built for it. That's the part the Victorians stumbled onto by accident, and the part that makes it quietly perfect for the darkest corner of your living room. The mistake people make is the opposite of what they'd guess. They move it to a bright window thinking they're helping, and the strong light scorches the fronds crispy. Keep it back from hard sun, and it stays lush and green for years. The fourth plant looks the most exotic, and is one of the most affordable. Calatheas have foliage so intricate, it looks engineered. Silver brush strokes on the orbifolia, deep painterly bands on the medallion, fine pink pinstripes on the ornata. Your eye reads rare tropical collector plant, but common calathea varieties sell for $20 to $30 at ordinary garden centers. There's a hidden feature that sells the luxury even harder. Calatheas are part of the prayer plant family, and they physically move. The leaves fold upward at night and open again in the morning. A slow daily rhythm, driven by a hinge of specialized cells at the base of each leaf called a pulvinus, which swells and shrinks with water pressure to tilt the leaf. A plant that visibly responds to the day feels less like decor and more like a living thing you're keeping, which is exactly the premium-feeling expensive plants are supposed to deliver. That movement also tells you where the plant comes from, and where it comes from explains why it's fussy. Calatheas are native to the tropical rainforests of Brazil and the wider Amazon basin, where they live on the dim, humid forest floor under the canopy. The nightly folding is thought to help them make the most of scarce, shifting light and shed excess water in a soaking wet environment. So when you bring one into a dry, fluoride-treated, brightly lit American living room, you're asking a deep jungle understory plant to live in conditions that are almost the exact opposite of home. That's not the plant being difficult. That's a habitat mismatch. And once you see it that way, the care makes sense. Style it simply. Matte white, soft gray, or natural terracotta lets that busy foliage be the star. Place it where you look down onto it. A coffee table, a low stand, because the patterns are designed to be seen from above. The catch is that calatheas are genuinely fussy about leaf condition. They're sensitive to the same fluoride and mineral content in tap water, and to dry air, both of which produce crispy brown edges that wreck the whole effect. Use filtered or distilled water. Keep humidity above 50% with a pebble tray or a small humidifier, and keep them out of direct sun, which scorches the patterns right off. Recreate a piece of that Amazon understory. Soft light, clean water, moist air, and the plant rewards you by staying flawless. The genuinely good news? Calathea is on the ASPCA non-toxic list for cats and dogs. Dramatic, exotic-looking foliage with zero toxicity worry. For a pet household, that combination is rare and worth a lot. Quick pause here, because we're at the midpoint, and the next 3 plants include the single best long-game value on this list. If a particular plant on this list has already caught your eye, drop its number in the comments. Those comments are exactly what shape which plant gets the next deep dive video on this channel. The 5th plant brings the drama. Dieffenbachia, sometimes called dumbcane, throws out big, broad leaves splashed with cream and white variegation, and at a real size, it commands a corner the way a floor lamp or a piece of art would. Nice, full specimens run just $15 to $25 at nurseries and big box stores, where they're honestly often underpriced for the visual punch they deliver. The trick with Dieffenbachia is keeping it full rather than letting it stretch tall and bare. Choose a multi-stemmed plant packed with leaves over a single leggy stalk. Ground it in a large, heavy, neutral-toned pot because those big leaves get top-heavy and a light pot will tip. Then, rotate the plant a quarter turn every week so it grows evenly on all sides. A lopsided Dieffenbachia looks neglected, while a balanced, symmetrical one looks maintained and deliberate. When it eventually does get leggy, cut the top off, root it, and the original stem branches out fuller than before. Here's the serious warning, and this one goes beyond pets. Dieffenbachia is loaded with calcium oxalate crystals and is toxic to cats and dogs. And the common name dumb cane comes from what it does to people. Chewing the leaves causes intense burning and temporary swelling of the mouth and throat, severe enough that it can briefly affect speech. Keep it well away from pets and from small children who put things in their mouths. Wash your hands after pruning. It's a gorgeous statement plant, but it earns real respect. The 6th plant rewards patience more than money. Hoya carnosa, the wax plant, has thick, glossy, almost artificial-looking leaves on long trailing vines, and a mature one, cascading 2 to 4 feet off a high shelf, looks genuinely high-end. People routinely assume it's a rare collector vine worth $100 or more. A small starter Hoya costs $15 to $20. The gap between those two numbers is just time. And understanding why time is all it takes means understanding what a Hoya actually is. In the wild, Hoya carnosa is an epiphyte. It grows clinging to tree trunks and branches in the forests of Eastern Asia and Australia, not rooted in soil, but anchored to bark, soaking up humidity and trickling rain. Those thick, waxy, almost rubbery leaves are water storage organs, built to hoard moisture between the irregular drinks an air-dwelling plant gets. That's why the Hoya is so forgiving of neglect and so happy to dry out completely between waterings. It's essentially a vine that thinks it lives on a tree and has stocked its own reserves. The trailing habit isn't decorative either. It's how the plant creeps along branches, reaching for new light. So when you let it cascade off a shelf, you're just letting it do the exact thing it evolved to do. The styling secret with Hoya isn't a pot or a placement trick. It's letting the vines grow long and full, because length and fullness are what read as established and expensive. So the smart play is to buy the cheap young plant, set it in a beautiful hanging planter in ceramic or brass, give it bright indirect light, and let it run for 6 to 12 months. You're buying a $100 look for $20 and a little patience. Wipe the waxy leaves occasionally so they keep their characteristic shine, since that gloss is exactly what makes them look sculptural instead of dull. Let it get slightly root-bound, and it may reward you with clusters of star-shaped, sweetly fragrant flowers. And here's a detail worth knowing. Those flowers bloom from the same little stub, called a spur, year after year. Never cut the spent flower spurs off, because that's where next season's blooms come from. Snip them, and you've thrown away the show. And the Hoya brings more good news for pet owners. Hoya carnosa is listed as non-toxic to cats and dogs by the ASPCA. The cut stems do ooze a milky latex sap that can irritate skin or trigger a latex allergy in sensitive people, so handle cuttings with a little care. But in terms of pet poisoning, it's safe. Exotic-looking cascading vines with no toxicity concern. That's a genuinely hard combination to find. The seventh plant delivers color without ever needing a flower. The aglaonema, Chinese evergreen, comes in varieties splashed with pink, red, silver, and cream running right through the green. Pick a bold one like the red Siam or a vivid pink cultivar, and the foliage alone provides the kind of saturated color most people assume requires a blooming, high-maintenance plant. Common varieties cost $20 to $30. Boutiques charge $60 to $80 for the identical plant. The styling logic is contrast. For a pink-toned aglaonema, a white or pale gray pot makes the color pop. For a red variety, matte black or charcoal turns it into something moody and sophisticated. Keep the plant dense and compact by occasionally cutting back any stem that stretches, because fullness is what reads as well-tended. Set it at eye level on a desk or side table where the color does its work. And it earns its keep year-round. No waiting for a bloom, no seasonal dead period, just constant color. Aglaonema tolerates lower light better than most colorful plants, though brighter indirect light deepens the pigment. And there's a reason it can hold vivid color in dim conditions where other colorful plants wash out and fade. The Chinese evergreen is native to the shaded forest floors of tropical Southeast Asia, across the Philippines, Indonesia, and Malaysia, where it evolved to photosynthesize efficiently in low, filtered light. The red and pink pigments in the modern cultivars come from anthocyanins, the same family of pigments that turns autumn leaves red, layered over the green by decades of selective breeding. Because the plant is already adapted to thrive in shade, it can carry that color into a dim room without stretching pale and leggy the way a sun-loving plant would. That's the quiet engineering behind it. A forest floor survivor bred into a low-light color machine. Water when the top couple inches of soil dry out, roughly weekly. The one caution? Aglaonema is toxic to cats and dogs, same calcium oxalate issue as the philodendron and dieffenbachia. So keep it out of reach in a pet home or choose one of the safe options from earlier on this list. So step back and look at the 7 together, because there's a pattern worth taking with you. Every single one of these plants does the same thing. It borrows the visual signature of expense without the cost. The Birkin borrows the look of rare variegation. The marginata borrows the language of sculpture. The parlor palm borrows the memory of grand hotels. The calathea borrows the feel of the exotic. What you're actually buying, in every case, is not rarity, it's presentation. And that's the real secret hiding underneath this whole topic. The plant is rarely what costs money. The pot, the placement, the pristine leaves, the patience to let something grow long and full, that's what your eye is reading as luxury. A $25 plant kept spotless in a $40 pot will, every time, beat a $60 plant sitting dusty in the plastic nursery container it came in. You don't need a bigger budget. You need a sharper eye. Take care of your plants.